Hello. So I've decided to have another one of my little rants this evening. Um, this time, my rant is born more out of concern rather than frustration, and it is on the subject of mental health, specifically depression and anxiety, as that is a subject that I hold very close to my heart, having had a good number of close friends and family members, and indeed myself, suffer at some point or another in the past with one or a combination of both of the above. Um, and I feel very much that I want to speak as a result of some of the things I've been reading recently, specifically with young people suffering. I read a story the other day which upset me deeply of a young boy who was being bullied um, to the point where he felt he could no longer face going into school. 11 or 12 years old, and was telling his mum that he couldn't face it. He didn't want to go back into school. The conversation was cut short for whatever reason, and at some point later in the evening, she went back to continue that conversation, and she found him hanging in his bedroom. That's no age for a life to be cut short, especially when nature not had a part to play in that. And I'm sure that 90% of the population can relate to some extent with how he was feeling, because I'm sure most of us have had a degree of bullying at some point in our lives. But for it to be that bad and be felt that severely by somebody so young, for me, is shocking. Um, and I read another stat as well the other day, which said that 1 in 4 people at some point in their life will develop depression and or anxiety. And of those 1 in 4 people, 1 in 7 of them will be between the age of 14 and 24. Now that is a hell of a lot of people. There's a hell of a lot of young people who may be of an age where they're not emotionally mature enough to speak out, or to feel that they can speak out, feel comfortable speaking out and finding that help. And I'm not here to preach. All I'm here to do is to say to anyone that doesn't understand depression or anxiety, then at least accept that it is a problem. For anybody that is suffering, don't suffer in silence. Find somebody to talk to, whether it be a friend or a family member, a professional. Go to your GP, talk to a doctor, talk to a stranger. There'll be somebody that is happy to listen and happy to help and let you know that you're not on your own. As that stat shows, you're not on your own. You're in a lot of company with that. I mean, it's a disease. It is a disease. There's no two ways about it. It's not something that's avoidable. I mean, yeah, subjects like bullying and things like that can bring on those low feelings, but it doesn't necessarily have a trigger. And in a lot of cases, that makes it worse, because the people that don't necessarily understand why they're feeling that way and don't feel they have a reason to feel that way will then end up feeling guilty as a result of it, feeling that there's people that have the right, I suppose, to feel worse than them. And as a result, that guilt makes them feel worse. And then when they feel worse, they start feeling guilty again. And it goes on in a cycle, and it's never ending. And the longer you leave it to speak, the harder it is to talk about it. But you aren't on your own. That is the main thing that I want to stress. You are not on your own in this. There are people out there that feel the same as you do, and that will be more than happy to talk to you and help you through it. And going back to it being a disease, it's a disease that doesn't discriminate. You only have to look as far as people as Gary Speed, as Robin Williams, people that were on top of the world, that had their dream positions, I suppose. They were a football icon, a Premier League icon, who was managing his national team and was suffering in silence. And then all of a sudden, one morning, the news broke he was dead. Robin Williams, who was one of the most loved performers, not just of his generation, but realistically one of the most loved comedic actors ever. An iconic performer, a man who was loved by millions all over the world, and yet suffered silently on his own to the point where he felt he couldn't take it anymore. Feeling bad and feeling low doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a weak person. It doesn't make you any less of a person. You don't need to suffer in silence. There are a lot of places you can go to, a lot of people you can speak to. And please, I repeat it, if you feel that low, please find it in yourself, and try very hard to find it in yourself to speak to somebody, because, as I say, the longer you leave it, the harder it is. And it is an issue. It is an issue, and it's an issue that needs sorting. And that's pretty much all I have to say on that.